Welcome to my channel. The year is 2050 and we are all playing Monopoly. It's me versus you. You have landed on Boardwalk and you owe me $600. How am I supposed to pay that, you ask? Well, by working for me, I say. You can start off by making this video about the rise of China reach 1 million likes. And then, just like that, your quest begins. And if you don't know where to start, how about here? We all know that today China is one of the most powerful nations in the world. But unlike countries like France or Japan, their rise to power has been relatively recent. Just a few decades ago, they were still considered an impoverished nation. So how did China go from poor and weak to rich and powerful so quickly? Before we begin, we would like to thank the sponsor of this video, our community. In 1949, Mao Zedong founded the People's Republic of China. This followed a long and violent struggle against the previous Chinese government, which was known as the Republic of China. After defeating them, Mao wanted to make China a communist country. Now, communism isn't easy to explain, but it's basically when the government owns everything and everyone works together for the common good of everyone. That sounds nice until you realize that in practice it usually means that the government sucks at everything and people have no incentive to work. Nevertheless, this is what he did. And to fund his new communist regime, he began taking land from farmers and giving it to the workers who worked on the land. Then the government took shares of any profits these workers made. This made the farmers pretty angry, and after 4 years of protests, Mao gave them money for their land, and with that, China's first economic boom began. Between 1953 and 1957, China's GDP grew by a staggering 15% annually. Now, that's impressive until you realize that during this time, China experienced the worst natural disaster in human history. A combination of droughts, floods, and typhoons killed over 55 million people. So yeah, not a great look. And this is actually one of the biggest reasons why China is so obsessed with food production to this day. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. In 1958, Mao decided to take things one step further and implemented the Great Leap Forward. The goal of this was to turn China into a modern industrial society overnight. And to do this, Mao divided China into communes, basically self-sufficient communities where everyone shared everything. In theory, this meant that the government didn't need to set quotas for farmers, because now they had a personal stake in the food they produced. But in practice, it turned into a dystopian nightmare. Basically, instead of being able to farm whatever they wanted, farmers were forced to grow whatever the government told them to grow. And if they didn't hit their quotas, they were punished. Over 50 million. Chinese citizens perished due to starvation, and the Great Leap Forward is considered one of the biggest human disasters in history. Now, despite all this, Mao's plan did achieve one major success. China went from having zero steel production in 1952 to becoming the second largest steel producer in the world in 1958. Now, around this time, the Cold War was heating up, and both the US and USSR were trying to get China on their side. Both sides showered China with gifts. The USSR gifted them weapons and technology, while the US gifted them rice and grain. It wasn't until 1962, however, that China received the gift that kept on giving. That year, Premier Zhou Enlai opened up China's borders to foreign investors. Up until this point, China had operated completely independently from the rest of the world, which made it extremely difficult for them to trade with other countries. They didn't have the infrastructure, machinery, or even language skills needed to properly participate in international trade, so Premier Zhou's reforms were focused on fixing this. He introduced the concept of SEG, Special Economic Zones, areas in China where foreign companies could invest without restrictions. The first SEZ was established in Shenzhen in 1979, and within 2 years, its GDP grew by 145%. Soon, other Asian countries realized what they were missing out on and started doing the same thing. China was now finally on a path to becoming a world power, but they still had one huge problem. Mao Zedong died in 1976, and the following year, China experienced a power struggle known as the Cultural Revolution. Basically, Mao's wife Jiang Qing tried to take control of the country and get rid of anyone who opposed her. She sent many intellectuals to labor camps where they were forced to do hard manual work. As you can imagine, a lot of China's best and brightest minds did not enjoy this very much, and productivity across the country fell. To put it into perspective, China's GDP per capita in 1976 was roughly equivalent to what Syria's GDP per capita is today. China was stuck in the Stone Age. Then, in 1978, Deng Xiaoping came along and ended the Cultural Revolution. He then went on to introduce sweeping economic reforms. China went from a closed command economy to a mixed market economy almost overnight. Private businesses were allowed, foreign investment was encouraged, and state-owned enterprises were given more freedom. This is what led to China's most impressive feat yet, 14 consecutive years of 14% growth. This is unheard of in modern history. No country has ever grown faster than 14% for 2 years straight, let alone 14. China's economy exploded, and 800 million people were lifted out of poverty. At this point, you might be thinking that China's success is mostly due to luck. Maybe they just happened to pick a good leader at the right time, or maybe they just got lucky with the whole market economy thing. Well, there's evidence to suggest that this isn't entirely true. When you look at China's GDP throughout history, you'll notice that every time they had a big leader, their GDP grew, which suggests that good leadership played a significant role in China's development. But anyways, in 1987, Deng stepped down and the position of paramount leader passed on to Jiang Zemin during his tenure. China continued growing at impressive rates and joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. Not only did this open up new markets for China, but it also subjected them to competition. Up until this point, Chinese goods were sold in China and Europe and the US. After this point, European and American goods were sold in China to Weibo for obvious reasons. This was a win-win situation. American and European consumers loved Chinese goods because they were incredibly cheap, and Chinese producers loved selling to American and European consumers because they had access to a brand new market. However, some industries were hit harder than others. The textile industry was one of those hit hardest. On average, Chinese textile companies only survived 3 years. That was until one man named Jack Ma. In 1999, Jack Ma founded Alibaba, which provided a platform for Chinese exporters to sell their goods online. His timing couldn't have been better. Around this time, internet usage in China was exploding, and soon Alibaba became the go-to platform for buying pretty much anything. Their business model is quite simple. They charge sellers a fee for using their platform. In 2020, for example, Alibaba made $112 billion from commissions and ads. Given that most transactions on Alibaba are B2B, i.e., businesses buying from other businesses, profit margins aren't super high, which is why they also own Lazada, which is similar to Amazon. Except instead of focusing on selling physical products, they focus on selling digital products. While Jack Ma was busy building Alibaba, another young man named Lei Jun was busy building Xiaomi. Unlike Alibaba, Xiaomi focused on selling phones directly to consumers. While their phones were never the most advanced on the market, they always had a decent spec-to-price ratio, which made them incredibly popular among China's middle class. Anyways, in 2012, Xi Jinping became the paramount leader of China. Under his leadership, China has become the world's second largest economy and the largest economy by purchasing power. And while Xi has certainly done a good job, this wouldn't have been possible without the groundwork laid by Deng Xiaoping, Zhu Rongjihu, Jintao, and Jiang Zemin. In fact, you could argue that China's success over the past 70 years has nothing to do with Xi Jinping and everything to do with the 5 leaders that preceded him. Despite this, Xi Jinping has made a name for himself by launching a crackdown on corruption and greed within the CCP, as well as launching massive infrastructure projects all across the world. So, there you have it, the rise of China in 100 seconds. If you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing. Also, be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and share it with your friends if you think they'll learn something from it. Thanks for watching, and until next time.